Hello, Professor Leo and Sir Andy. We are from Group 7. We will give you some explanation about our final report. The topic is the lack of teaching personnel. Our group member, there are Jeremi, Doria, Gabriella, Sintia, Sinaga, and me, Cindy. This is our community, Indonesia Mengajar. Indonesia Mengajar as a movement without ambition is present as a solution that solves all educational problems in Indonesia. However, we believe that the participation of all levels of Indonesian society will contribute to improving the quality of our education. Regarding education, the promise of independence to educate the nation's life inspired by this program. We have all made promises, which we haven't been able to fulfill so far. There are some Indonesians who have fulfilled their promise of independence. With the education they receive, they can achieve a better life for themselves and their families. However, not a few of our brothers and sisters are still waiting for the promise to be paid off. They do not get a proper education. They are not brought up in their economic and social life. At the beginning of the establishment of Indonesia Mengajar, they believed that there were many potential youth out there who had concern for the nation. This had led them to recruit, knock on their heart, and invite youth to be directly involved in fulfilling the promise of independence. They called the young man as the young teacher. Indonesia Mengajar invites these young people to explore life across Indonesia, to live and learn from the local community for 1 year. They work in primary school and live in local homes with their new families. Next.
Okay, the next is project problem description. Nah, the point one is goal and vision. What is the goal and vision of our plan? Of course, we want this online article can be useful for many people. We want this article to provide information that can be a solution and hopefully later can support the progress of education in Indonesia. The point two is contribution to add an informative reading material for the society. First, to add informative reading material for the society, and we want to give an overview of Indonesia, which lacks teaching staff, and this community is here to overcome this. Point three is knowledge or skill. Write the article in simple and easy to understand. We take fairly accurate information directly from the official link from the community. We also write the article in simple and easy to understand. Next slide. There are project execution step. Number one, we do brainstorming to the problems. Second, after we find the problem, we look for the data owned by the community. Three, we start to make the article together or one person as a writer. The four, after that, we double check the article, and the last we post it into a online article so everyone can read it. Next slide.
Okay, we move on to the next slide. Last but not least, so this is our article. You can read it by on your own by the link that we show you, or I gonna read it for you. Our article topic is lack of teaching personnel to realize the development of education in Indonesia. Education is the key to development in the state and nation because through the education, a country can lead its people to prosperity, and that in itself is the thing that each country focuses on. In Indonesia, the focus of the Indonesia state of education is contained in 1945 Constitution Article 31, Paragraph 1, which states that every citizen has the right to education, where this is in accordance with one of the ideals and goals of the Indonesian nation as the state of the opening of the fourth paragraph of 1945 Constitution. namely to educate the nation life. This show that Indonesia has placed education as a top priority in nation building because education is the basis of knowledge needed by everyone as a provision to get a better life in the future. Compared to people who lack education, someone who is more educated will have a greater potential to be able to improve the quality of their life and help advance their environment. In this case, if education in Indonesia is evenly distributed, it will certainly have a great influence on the development of people live at large so that they can realize a better Indonesia. Unfortunately, the reality of the data that occur in Indonesia did not match the expectation that we were proclaimed at the beginning. That there were various obstacles that slow the development of education in this country. A clear example is the lack of competent teaching staff, the lack of teaching staff and teaching personnel that is result in the inequality of education that exists in Indonesia. In other words, we can say that there are still many students, especially in remote area, who have not been able to or not have not received an education bench. This problem is not only caused by the lack of awareness of the local community about the importance of education, but also the uneven access to education in remote area. In other words, the existence of school in the region cannot be said to have sufficient and good quality and quantity of teaching staff. This also shows that there is an education gap that occur in Indonesia associated with the reality that can be obtained over time. Various organizations that move to advance education in Indonesia have emerged. One such organization is Indonesia Mengajar. Since its inception and until now, the existence of Indonesia Mengajar has had a considerable influence on the progress of education in Indonesia. Clearly, Indonesia Mengajar is a movement that focuses on advancing education in Indonesia. The Indonesia Mengajar movement was inspired by a long process that was built over many years. The concept of the Indonesia Mengajar movement itself was first coined by Anies Baswedan, whose concept was initiated in mid 2009. Anies Baswedan's long process built over the years is the combination of three things that have been struggled together. Namely, the first is lesson from various generations. The second is the journey of the service activities and interaction with various community. And the third is modern knowledge and taken from the global academic world. The president of Indonesia Mengajar gave a birth to principle regenerate lost hope for education in Indonesia. Indonesia Mengajar does not have the ambition to be the only solution to all the problem that exists in the area of education in Indonesia, but tries to ensure that its presence can help improve the quality of education in Indonesia. Broadly speaking, Indonesia Mengajar talk about two things, namely education and engagement. Indonesia Teaching or Indonesia Mengajar seek to realize one of the promises of independence, namely to educate the nation. It was understanding that then started to the present of Indonesia Mengajar movement. Indonesia Mengajar sees that there are still many people who have not received a proper education. Yes, it is mean that until now they are still waiting for one of those promises of Indonesia independence to be paid off. This is where the reason Indonesia Mengajar is present to help pay off one of the promise of Indonesia independence. The birth of Indonesia Mengajar also aims to show that development of existing education is not entirely the duty and obligation of the government but all aspects of the society. Indonesia Mengajar invites all levels of society, especially Indonesian youth to join in being part of the struggle. For them to realize and advance Indonesia education, it is necessary to provide adequate facility. Therefore, they provide various engagement spaces that can be followed by Indonesia youth and professional. The engagement spaces include being a young lecturer, inspiration class, knowledge sharing room, Tembokpedia, playground, and institute. Indonesia Mengajar believe that education is a shared business, so mutual cooperation from all walks of life is needed to assist the implementation of various existing initiatives. And another live another thing that Indonesia Mengajar is doing is also developing the pengajar muda atau young teacher program, which means selected scholars who are recruited, trained, and sent by Indonesia Mengajar to serve as a teacher in remote area of Indonesia for 1 year. This program was launched to overcome the problem of the lack competent and sufficient teaching staff in Indonesia. For Indonesia, teaching the best young generation is a representation of world-class competence. At the same time, young teacher will learn leadership during their placement so that they have a complete understanding of the grassroots community. Indonesia Mengajar believe that the quality of education in remote area is closely related to how entire community participate in the creating a good education ecosystem. Therefore, the competencies possessed by a young teacher will help encourage the community to be more empowered and creating and the education ecosystem. In this regard, all elements, both member of Indonesia Mengajar, the government, and the community are expected to educational problem in Indonesia to work together to solve educational problem in Indonesia. This is because Indonesia Mengajar as a movement that helps provide various facility through its program will not work if there is no cooperation in it. This is not because the problem of education is a common and complex problem. So strong cooperation is needed. If Indonesia Mengajar does not receive support from the government or the wider community, it is certainly that Indonesia Mengajar program will experience great difficulties in changing the current concept of education in Indonesia. Therefore, through cooperation of these various elements, it is hoped that they can help solve educational problem in Indonesia. Thus, the opportunity to advance education in Indonesia will certainly be greater. Education is the key to development in the state and nation. And that's all from our topic, and that's all from our presentation. And if you want to ask something, just raise your hand, and we will be very happily and gratefully to answer a question. And that's all from us. And may our presentation be insightful from you. Thank you. Bye.